The following voices are AI generated. We hope you enjoy the video.
Welcome to our first movie review, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, this one's a doozy. It's another 20th anniversary review, but it's not a good movie. It's the 2003 live-action movie adaptation of The Cat in the Hat, starring Mike Myers. It's crazy that this movie is now 20 years old. I'm not alone, as Amy, Shadow, and Knuckles are with me.
What's up? If you're wondering why it's us adventure-era characters doing this review, is because the 4Kids era and modern-era characters hated this movie more than the rest of us. Silver especially wants to turn back time and erase it from existence, like Sonic Arrow 6. However, it's quite fitting that we're the ones doing this review because we were relevant at the time, and Adventure 1 had its GameCube port, and Heroes came out a month after The Cat in the Hat came out. Say hello to the audience, Shadow.
Hello. I'm not here because I want to be. I'm only here because the original Dr. Seuss book was Maria's favorite book, and that these three dragged me along to see that hairy Ronald McDonald with a big top hat played by that guy who did a James Bond parody, and the voice of the green ogre that the internet mercilessly ships with me.
The internet is strange, Shadow, and I guess you boys haven't heard of Ladies First since I'm the last one to introduce myself, but let's get this review started. Sonic, my darling, how about you go first?
Sure, Amy. The movie starts with a narrator giving us exposition, and we see the town and the kid's single mom working at a real estate agency and is a workaholic.
And her boss, who also voices that fish for some reason, is a germaphobe and becomes a hyper Vince McMahon and Donald Trump saying, "You're fired," in a loud and annoying way to a new coworker, and even threatens the mom that she'll be fired if her house is messy because they'll be having a party.
The kids, Conrad and Sally, are two kids that each have flaws. Conrad is the reckless and messy boy, and Sally is the control freak and is implied to be a tobacco chewer, and that's what kids do, right? Nasty stuff that they're supposed to chew. What a horrible message. And I know it was a different time, but giving kids drugs and nasty stuff is just disgusting.
Just after we first see the children, Conrad did a ridiculous stunt that almost ruined his mother's new dress that she was going to wear at the party. She then scolded Conrad for making a little mess, and even grounds him. And just after the mess was made, the family dog Nevins ran outside before the neighbor Larry Quinn, played by Alec Baldwin, finds him back and takes him back to the house. Soon, the mother had to go back to work and hired a racially insensitive stereotype as a babysitter who sleeps on the job.
Shortly after the kids had a little boredom, it started to rain outside, and the kids stared out of the window and had a tiny fight, but out of nowhere, they met the cat and were rightfully scared and ran away before we got to know him. The jokes right away felt forced, and the song was just laughably bad. They even tried to recreate the classic juggling and balancing on the ball from the book.
After the fun song, Conrad and Sally convinced the cat to stay, and they decided to jump on the couch despite their mom not allowing them to be in the living room. It felt so uncomfortable seeing the cat act like another stereotype this time, as a Southern guy. Just as Quinn returned to steal snacks and beer, the cat stayed in the ceiling and scratched his back, and we find out that Quinn was apparently allergic to cats, so that means Quinn is also allergic to Big, Blaze, and Honey.
Good one, Knuckles. Big would probably squish Quinn by just sitting on him. Anyway, Sally gradually had more fun and wanted to make cupcakes with the cat, and we then see a parody of an infomercial of a cupcake making product, and we see Cat cloning himself. One was wearing a sweater, asking obvious questions, and the other was a British chef who cut off his tail in the end and swore right in front of the kids.
Tails immediately shuddered and held on to both of his tails when he saw that scene. And speaking of Tails, if you're wondering why he's not in this review with us, is because he ran away screaming after watching this movie.
Poor Tails got traumatized after this, just like the 4Kids cast. The chef cat swore but was covered by a censor bleep since this was supposed to be a PG movie, but they really wanted to shove the double entendres down our throats. In the next scene, the cupcakes made a mess in the kitchen. That's when the cat sent Thing 1 and Thing 2 to help out cleaning.
But it backfired as the scary little bastards made a bigger mess, since they were known to do the opposite of what they're told, and the dog left again after it was used as a football and ran away, so they had to leave the house, and more hijinks ensued.
They even went to a car called the SLO SOW or slow, and another swear joke was made that was supposed to be the previous name of the car, and the acronym was SHIT or shit, which made us all cringe.
They went into town and had to make the cat as a hippie and got the dog back from Quinn, and a chase happened. Before they left the house, the cat and the kids then noticed the red box was unleashed after the lock was on the dog's collar.
And the stereotype sleeping babysitter was the one who kept the box shut due to her weight before she went back to the couch, and then the mother of all messes happened to the house as the cat and the kids went back home.
That red box with that lock reminds me of the Master Emerald in Angel Island, but worse, bizarre, and trippy. Quinn followed the kids and that cat back home while Thing 1 and Thing 2 disguised themselves as cops and distracted the mom. The house with the magic looked like a different freaky world, almost perfect for Eggman to live in.
I was just about to say that. After Quinn met the cat, he kept sneezing and fell into the pink goo. The characters went around the ugly house and got the lock back to the box, and the house literally fell apart inside, and the kids miraculously survived, and the cat was finally kicked out for all his schemes since he somehow admitted that he planned it all along and didn't care.
If only those kids kicked that damn cat out in the beginning, then the movie would have ended sooner, and it would have been more watchable. But just like in the book, the cat came back with a cleaning machine called DIRT to clean up the house with the help of Thing 1 and Thing 2, and the kids said their goodbyes to the cat, just in time for their mother to come home.
As if the movie couldn't be any more predictably awful, Quinn came back and was kicked out and dumped by the mom, and the party was finally thrown, and the cat revealed himself as the narrator with a voice-changing microphone, and the movie finally ends with him and Thing 1 and Thing 2 walking into the sunset.
I sure hope the people who watched the movie in theaters back in 2003 got refunds if they walked out sooner. It's probably by far one of the worst movies that was based on a book, and I don't read books often.
And one of the worst films of 2003.
Well, I think it's one of the worst movies of all time, period.
Interesting, Amy. Tell our fans why the Cat in the Hat movie sucks hairballs.
The Cat in the Hat is notorious for its lack of faith in the source material and constant pop cultural references, potty humor, and adult humor. Not to mention how creepy and horrifying Mike Myers looked as the cat, but at least he's just in makeup and not all CGI like that piece of crap Cats movie from 2019.
And don't you dare bring up that awful goddamn movie, Pink Hedgehog. The Cat in the Hat may be bad, but that Cats movie should have never existed. I'm a fan of the musical, but that movie was an absolute disgrace.
Jesus, sorry, Shadow, and calm your ass down. I knew you were going to be grouchy in this review, but not to this level.
Yeah, save the anger for the disappointment on how the movie failed to recapture the book's charm and whim. We all used to read that Dr. Seuss book all the time when we were little, but after seeing this movie, we all know that the author is rolling in his grave after seeing this movie. The live-action Grinch, starring Jim Carrey, was much better than this one.
Absolutely. That comedian Jim Carrey went from a hairy green man hating Christmas to a live-action version of our main enemy with a giant mustache in the Sonic movies. Also, both Jim Carrey and Mike Myers are both from Canada and were in SNL, and both played two of the most famous Dr. Seuss characters, but we all know Jim Carrey is the superior one.
I mean, Mike Myers was a decent choice to play the cat, but at the same time, he wasn't. He was apparently difficult to work with and only listened to the director, Bo Welch. In the movie, the cat was constantly wheezing after a goofy phrase. I've heard that Tim Allen was the original choice to play the cat, but he was too busy filming the Santa Claus 2, and Mike Myers was the next choice. Speaking of the Santa Claus 2, the boy who played Conrad in The Cat in the Hat, Spencer Breslin, was also in the Santa Claus 2.
And the little girl who played Sally, Dakota Fanning, had another movie in 2003 called Uptown Girls, starring the late and beautiful Brittany Murphy. That cheesy movie was 10 times better than The Cat in the Hat, and the creator of the channel already did a quick review of that movie. And man, that Cat in the Hat's humor was just putrid.
Sonic Boom had better humor than this movie, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this movie makes the entirety of Shadow the Hedgehog a masterpiece and Sonic 06 tolerable.
And none of us were in those games. However, The 4Kids cast were in those games because they replaced us.
And that cat kept getting Conrad and Sally into trouble, and that poor dog Nevins was dognapped by Alec Baldwin playing that gold-digging neighbor Larry Quinn just so he can send Conrad to a military school.
Conrad and Sally sounded like they were bored out of their minds, showing little to no emotion when they're not yelling, and the young actors who played them clearly deserved better. Especially Dakota Fanning, since she's been in a lot better movies as she got older.
Don't even get me started with the visuals and special effects. Since it was 2003, the CGI was still getting good, but this movie didn't have it well at all. It had too many pink vomit-looking globs resembling strawberry shortcakes, which I hate, by the way. The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and Finding Nemo were made the same year, and their visuals were 1,000,000 times better.
I might as well watch Return of the King again with Knuckles. I remember going to the movies and seeing that epic masterpiece a bunch of times.
And I remember that I cried during the opening of Finding Nemo. Early Pixar was peak Pixar. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Old Pixar is better than modern Pixar. Fight me.
Are there any good things about the movie? I know a few things. The production of how the town looks all bright reminds of Angel Island as a town, and the 2 songs done by Smash Mouth. One of them was a cover of the Beatles song, Getting Better. Rest in peace, Steve Harwell. I kind of want Burger King later. How about we get Whoppers?
Sure, I'd love a Whopper and fries.
And onion rings for everyone.
I'd rather have cheese pizza with my 4Kids and modern/meta-era selves, but anyway, there was also a fun video game based on the movie, and it's like Yoshi's Story and Mario Sunshine, and it was one of the childhood games the creator played.
And the best part about the movie is the audience turning scenes into memes. Lots of memes like the scene where the cat holds the baseball bat, or him saying cha-ching after blatantly advertising Universal Studios to the audience, and of course fan-made trailers that made this movie a horror movie.
It's a guilty pleasure to many and to the creator of this channel, but to us, this movie is plain garbage. I'm glad there hasn't been a sequel because Dr. Seuss's wife forbidden Hollywood to do any more live-action adaptations of her husband's books. It's for the better, because this was supposed to be the movie. Not just another kid's book in movie form, but one of the most iconic children's book characters into movie form. But Hollywood butchered it like what they do to any beloved source material /IP.
Not only that, but the movie didn't even make enough money at the box office, so it was a semi-box office flop. Every other Dr. Seuss movie since then has been in animation form, which is for the best, even though the 2018 Grinch movie wasn't as fun as the Jim Carrey Grinch. Doctor Strange was not as brash, cold, memorable, or cynical as the previous Grinch performers.
Preach. Although I kinda wish Paris Hilton lended her voice in every Dr. Seuss movie after seeing her cameo in The Cat in the Hat. She was so stunning, and I don't mind dancing with her like in that kiosk club scene in the movie, if only she was an echidna.
Knuckles, don't be a pervert. We already talked about this. She was completely unnecessary and didn't belong nor fit in to be in this children's movie in the first place.
That Paris Hilton isn't a bright lady like me or a good actress. Just look at her filmography, and the less said about the other stuff, the better. Hint, hint.
Yeah, and Thing 1 and Thing 2 were more terrifying than the cat himself. They looked like troll dolls if they were mutated with Sully from Monsters, Inc. and shaved their faces as if they wanted to eat us in our sleep.
Not even Eggman would have those things as roboticized minions. They're that scary almost as much as the Boom Boos from the desert levels in Adventure 2, and I still have PTSD from those ghosts.
To end this review, it's also sad that the actress that played Conrad and Sally's mother passed away not too long ago. Yeah, not only did the lead singer of Smash Mouth pass away, but a few years ago, Kelly Preston passed away. You know we're getting old when people are gone. Heck, I'm a fictional character that was supposed to die in my debut appearance, but because of fan demand, I returned in Sonic Heroes. Speaking of Sonic Heroes, we better do another 20th anniversary review of that game.
Maybe next time. Rouge Cream and the Chaotix will have to join us because the game had more of us after all, and it was the swan song of the Adventure/Dreamcast era, at least in console form.
The early 2000s as a whole has a lot of anniversaries nearby, and Heroes along with Advance 3 were our final games before the 4Kids cast took over.
Well, that wraps up this video. Sorry that Shadow and I sound like robots because the AI isn't good enough to convey emotions, but we hoped you enjoyed this review nonetheless. We all agree that this Cat in the Hat was a disaster, and we know. But what do you think of this movie? Is it still bad or is it funny? Let us know in the comments down below.
And don't forget to click the bell so you cannot miss and see more videos of us, and be sure to like.
Be sure to subscribe!
And share it with everyone that knows about us and the Cat in the Hat movie.
We'll see you guys later. Peace out and rock on.